Michelle's going to come on in a few minutes. She's going to cover marketing. We're going to go deep. You're going to get some empowerment to grow you, your business, and become your greatest possible self in the process. Before we get to that, let's talk about the sponsor message. This interview is brought to you by Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self and the 21-Day Challenge. If you're an entrepreneur or high achiever and you want clarity on your dreams, you want to dial in who you are, what you're really here for, and break that down into bite-sized steps and be held accountable for the next 21 days to accomplish your top priority and task, that's exactly what the 21-Day Challenge is for. If you want to find out more info, go to Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self, beyourgps.com. So beyourgps.com is where you can find it, and let us know. Send me an email, chris@beyourgps, that you want to find out more about the 21-Day Challenge. Next up is the iTunes Review of the Week. And by the way, what's up, Paul McFarland? Welcome to the show. And this week, it's by Queen Sawyer. Queen says, love this podcast. Every single episode is filled with great advice and actions to take. I love it. Thanks so much, Queen. I appreciate you. If you want to give us a review, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes and give us a review, or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on the podcast or iTunes store, and you can find us like that. Thanks so much in advance, letting us know what you love, what you feel could use improvement, and how we can grow and serve you even better. Thanks so much. Now, we're going to introduce Michelle in just a minute here. Before that, though, make sure you have a pen and paper ready, because she is going to go deep into the tactical, into the strategy, into the practical how-to be able to grow yourself in marketing, in messaging, and be able to make your own mark in the world with your business, with your message, with who you really are. Okay, so we're going to dive into that. Make sure you stay tuned all the way through, because she is going to share the gold. Let's introduce her and then bring her on the show. So Michelle L. Evans walked away from her global marketing strategy role at Microsoft in 2012 after a successful 16-year corporate career spanning many industries. She now uses her 20-plus years of successful marketing experience to work with coaches, consultants, experts, speakers, authors, and solopreneurs, helping her clients stop doing random acts of marketing and instead create income-producing, client-generating, stress-reducing marketing funnels. Michelle has been featured in Mirasee, Huffington Post, Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield, and 50-plus other places online, and has worked with household names like Microsoft, LinkedIn, and others, as well as well-paid employee and consultant. As a well-paid employee and consultant, check out Michelle's best tips on adventures in building a business as a mom of 3, marketing hacks, and more at michellelevans.com, or tune into her weekly podcast, The Marketing Funnel Show. And we're blessed to have her here with us today. Michelle, you ready to rock this?
I am, Chris.
Yes.
Let's do it.
We're doing it. We're now live on the show. Thank you so much for coming on today to share with our audience of entrepreneurs and people who are out to build their own message, their own business, to be able to grow with you. Thank you for showing up. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're diving in. You're a podcaster. You get this. This is going to be fun. I feel the energy. I feel it. This is awesome. Let's dive right into the theme of the day, which is clarity equals power. What does that mean to you, Michelle?
Yeah, clarity equals power. Let's just be clear. If you don't have clarity, it's really hard to be powerful, because you're just kind of trying to figure it out as you go along, right?
Yep.
I know. Let's back it up here. Yeah. Before I left my job at Microsoft, before I even started in corporate America, I knew that I wanted to have my own business, like way back in college,
right.
A long time ago.
That's incredible.
I didn't have clarity on what kind of business I would have. And so what happened is I went the path of least resistance, right? I went and got a job, and I kind of did the expected thing, even though it didn't feel right for me. Right?
Yeah, you just fit in. That's what you're told to do.
And I actually did pretty well. I climbed the corporate ladder. I made good money, all sorts of stuff, but I never felt right. I always had these feelings of, is this really all there is? Like, is this what success means?
Wow.
Does it mean, waking up and checking my phone first thing in the morning because I need to see what fire drills have come down? Does it mean, giving up my whole personal life because we have some sort of event happening? Like, is that what success is? Or am I getting all of these gut pulls to be something else because there is something else out there? And it wasn't until I got clarity on what that something else was that I could take powerful action. So to answer your question, like, this is how you regain power in your life. Yeah. It's how you regain deciding what success means for you. It's how you regain the power over what your life and your future is going to look like.
Wow. So powerful. I love it. And you had that contrast to see from your journey. Hey, this is not what I want to do anymore. But sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes it takes like kind of going through the motions of life and kind of getting beaten around a little bit and winding up one day, waking up saying, wait, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I know there's a better way. There's got to be, more success. There's got to be something more than this. I was meant for more. And you discovered that. And then you set out on your journey of entrepreneurship and creating your own marketing business and impacting so many people, which we're going to get into. But I really, really love your perspective. And for people who are just finding out about you, Michelle, tell us a little bit more about how you serve your clients and what kind of clients you work with.
Yeah, so I love working with people who sort of were where I was, right? Where they have all these skills. Yeah. They know that there's this big wild world of online marketing and businesses out there. But sometimes there's like a question of how do I take all of this knowledge and all these skills that I have and turn it into something that people actually want to buy from me?
Yeah.
And, I mean, we can go back to, when I first left my job, but there was this huge income roller coaster. And some of your listeners have probably experienced this themselves.
100%.
Like, when you start your own business, you don't have that guaranteed paycheck coming every couple of weeks. You have to go out there and have a process and have a system to constantly be attracting new people to you. And there were points in my business where I didn't do that. I got so focused on doing the work, which is what I love to do, that I left all that to go. And so I'd go from these great months to nothing. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry and get some business going, right? I mean, you're laughing probably because you have experienced it at least once, right? Yes.
Preach.
And so I want people to know, like, leaving a job for a business, it's not like this cakewalk in the park where money just starts like showing up on your doorstep. No. It actually, I'm not even going to lie. I read some books. We won't name them, but I read some books that made it seem like, you hire some people in India or the Philippines and they do all the work and you make all the money. Yes. And I was like, that sounds too good to be true, but I got to check this out for myself. It was too good to be true.
Anytime you have an intuition, a gut pull that says that, you're probably right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I am glad that I checked it out because I was able to discover that it actually takes a little more than that to create a business.
Yeah. Yeah. But now you've gone through that journey and you came from the perspective of, well, I don't really like being here anymore, the corporate side. So let's go do this entrepreneurship thing. Like, I got this, right? And then you get into the whole world and you're like, oh my goodness, I was not expecting this. But because you had that, perspective and awakening, and now you're like a successful business owner helping these other people build their own marketing systems and machines and, to be able to create that consistent income. It's so powerful to see that you've gone through their journey. I think that's one of the best ways to teach people is say, hey, I was once in your shoes. I know what it's like. And now I'm on the other side. Let me help you take those steps.
Yeah. And not only was I once in your shoes, but I was probably in those shoes a few times. Sometimes I have to learn the lesson a few times before
That's
it really sticks.
I love it, Michelle. So I want to go back into the journey and talk about, you thought you knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur. You had that entrepreneurial bug, and then the desire, the meant for more desire, and then you go through corporate. And tell us more about like what were some of the challenges that you went through going and growing through corporate America, and what really caused you to want to make that leap. Let's go a little bit deeper into that journey.
Yeah, I mean, so here's a big clue. Yeah. I hated asking for permission. I hated going in for approvals. Yep. I hated having to like submit to somebody else's ideas, especially if they weren't in my space. Like if they weren't thinking about these problems all the time, and then I'd have to go ask for permission to do stuff. I hated that. Yeah. And I think that that's a big clue. If you don't like asking for permission, if you would rather ask for forgiveness, you're probably an entrepreneur. Or at least if it kind of grates on your nerves. You might do it, but it might kind of grate on your nerves.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good clue. That was me. I did not love having to go and, like pitch my ideas all the time internally. I was like, let's just get out there and try some stuff. And that's not to say I couldn't pitch my ideas. I could. It drove me crazy. I was like, I know what we should be doing. I don't need to go ask for permission from all these people. But even more than that, I had a lot of skills. I won a lot of awards. I had all these things, but I couldn't really see how I could turn those into a business. I was like, nobody's going to hire me to do global marketing for them, like, unless I'm an employee, right?
Yeah.
And so I started exploring all these things. Like I took a personal coaching certification so that I could be, like an executive coach. Right. And I went through all the training. I went through all the certification. And around that time is when I had my third child. Wow. And I had him in June of 2011, and I won this ginormous award at Microsoft, huge. And so on my maternity leave, I went in and I had a big lunch thing with the chief marketing officer at Microsoft. And after that, I went and talked to my boss. And at this point, I had really been having these gut pulls to go out on my own that were really strong for probably 2.5 years. But I kept coming up with all these excuses, like, I don't know what skills I would offer. I don't know who would hire me. I don't know what my business name would be. I don't know what I had every excuse in the book. Great. Probably excuses that people in this audience are saying as well. So I went in to get that award and, my bonus and all that kind of stuff. And I had this conversation with my boss, and he was like, Michelle, you've been amazing this past year. But because you're on maternity leave, I'm not going to support you being a high potential anymore, and kiss these awards goodbye, because I'm not putting you up for them this next year. And it was at that moment that, if I was a cartoon character, I would have had steam coming out of my ears. Yes. And my head would have been exploding. But I went home that night and I opened my business. I had been getting all these gut pulls, but I had been ignoring them. I'd come up with 8,001 excuses as to why now wasn't the time, why I wasn't qualified, why I needed, another course or another something. That moment I was just like, forget this. Nobody else is going to determine my success level. And I went home that night and I opened my business. Now, I didn't quit that day. I just opened my business and I laid the groundwork so that happened in August. In January, I left my job.
That's awesome.
And so there you go.
That's awesome. That's powerful. And what was it that had you know, hey, I need to keep this position and keep the momentum, keep the bills paid, so to speak? How did you manage that instead of doing the burn the boats approach, which, some people do. Some people say, stay with it until you can replace your income. Some people say, hey, give yourself no option, go all in. What was your perspective on that process?
So, at that point I had 3 kids. I had a mortgage, I made more than my husband. I still do. And so it wasn't prudent for me to just walk away from my job. Right. But more than that, I was like, okay, now I'm committed. At that moment, I went home and opened my business. That was my commitment point where I was like, enough with the dreaming, enough with the excusing. It's time to get this figured out. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there any way that you empower your clients or potential prospects to make that decision without you experience pain. You experience I could call it humiliation. How dare you? Indignation. Who do you think you are? And I will never let you tell me what to do again. I will never be dependent on someone else again. For someone who's maybe more comfortable than that, or is bumping up against I know I'm meant for more, but making those excuses like you were talking about. How do you catalyze them? How do you ignite them to make those big leaps or bold declarations and actions?
That's a good question, because you don't want to get to that point where you're so angry and frustrated and it's this do or die point. Because if I didn't have a 7-week-old baby and 2 other kids at home that were depending on me, feeding them, I might have quit then. Yeah. And I don't think that would have been the right place, because I would have been building my business from a place of panic, of like, I gotta make some money now. Instead, I gave myself enough runway to, when I left my job in January of 2012, I stepped into contracts and clients that totally replaced my income. That's awesome. But that's only because I gave myself enough space and I wasn't in a panic mode. I could ask questions. I could let relationships develop because I wasn't in a rush. But if, it's hard to say what I would say to somebody, because if you're not committed yet, there's almost nothing you can say. Wow. Because the excuses and the fear will keep coming up. It's not until you say, right, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I can't keep putting my life and my dreams on hold because of this fake sense of security. Now, around that time, there were also a lot of people getting laid off. And from like 2009 to 2011, tons of people got laid off at Microsoft. When I first started there, I think there was over 15,000 people in the global marketing organization. And when I left, there were less than 5. Wow. So, over 10,000 people just in marketing, not in the broader company, had been let go. And so I knew that, like, this job, I was kidding myself if I thought this job was safe. And anyone is kidding themselves if they think their job is safe. You can always be replaced. And so for me, I was like, these excuses are getting whittled down. But then when I had this decision moment, when my boss was saying that to me, that's when my commitment, like, I just put my feet in the ground and I was like, enough. It is time to make a decision. And so I guess I would just say, like, what is it that's going to make you make that commitment to yourself and to your dreams?
That's powerful. So that's, people really just have to look at what's the cost of them not taking action and what is available to them out of making that leap. And really just, it's the clarity, right? Being crystal clear on, hey, if I keep going down this path of staying where I am, status quo, what will be ahead of me? I'll live a life full of regret or whatever else it might be. And if you say, well, if I take another route and take the leap and I mess up, well, life will keep going on. I'm resilient. I'm tough. I'll bounce back, whatever it might be, but I will have learned. And in best case scenario, hey, I have this freedom that I never had before. I have this income. I have this purpose. And that's who we're talking to a lot today, who's in the audience, is people who have a purpose, people who have a message, people who want to change the world in a big way. And you're really great at marketing, Michelle. So I want to dive into the marketing aspect of where we need to start and what we need to know. Let's say there's people out there who are getting by. They have a decent amount of clientele, and they're just like, they don't have the momentum that they are looking for. They don't have the consistency. It's feast or famine, like you were talking about earlier. Where do those people really start in understanding marketing so that they create that freedom and that sustainability and momentum?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, just as by way of illustrating this point, I pretty much took all of December off this year. Wow. And January came around and I had 8 clients ready to start. Yeah. And I didn't really do much of anything. And in fact, I have so many now that I have a few months waiting list because, I had so many people signed up. But that didn't happen, like that. That took laying a foundation, right? I'm saying, okay, I'm taking this month off. And when I come back, things will be ready to go. Yeah. And so what I always tell people, if you have a drive inside of you, if you have a message, a purpose, you have special skills that people are wanting, the first thing to be really clear on is, how do you want your business to look? How do you want to serve that? Do you want products? Do you want services? Do you want programs? Do you want events? Like, what is it that you are feeling called to offer? Yeah. And by offer, I mean sell something. What is it that you're selling? Until you have that clarity on what you want to sell, it's really hard to make decisions about how to market yourself and how to get things out there. And so that's when, you get into these random acts of marketing where you're like, I'll try this. That didn't work. I'll try this. I'll try this. I'll try this. And you overwhelm yourself with activity that doesn't ever get the needle moving, right? It doesn't ever move you forward. But, somebody said this is the key to success. So you have to start with understanding, what is it that I'm offering? And then the next piece is, you have to understand, what is the problem that my audience has? And is my offer going to actually solve that problem? If not, you're going to need to do some mixing it up. That's not to say, if you want to have a service, maybe your service just needs a little tweaking to be able to solve that problem. But you need to stay grounded in, what am I selling? And is there a market for it? Do people actually even want this? What's the problem that they would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and pull out their phone and Google because it's making them crazy? And when you know that, boy, your marketing gets a lot easier because you know who you're talking to and you know the path, the journey that you're going to take them on. I happen to call that a marketing funnel, where you meet them where they are and you show them how to get the results that they are wanting with you. You don't just go to somebody, and I know because I've tried, you don't just go to somebody and say, hey, Chris, I've got this great offer for you. You want a marketing funnel? Because your first thing is like, no, I don't need that, right? There's a giant gulf between, I know you have this problem and I know I can solve it, but you need to travel this gulf to say, yep, that's what I want. And that's where a lot of people get into that feast or famine mode, because they're meeting people over here and they're saying, like, come join me over here, but they're getting lost in this place here. And so that place there is the marketing funnel. And, and often when I'm talking to people, I illustrate it with people standing on the side of a cliff, and you're on this cliff, and there's this giant river between you. You need to get them on a bridge across that river. And so the first thing that I would say is you got to warm them up. You got to warm them up that you understand where they're at. You understand this problem that they have. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you've helped people who are there. You tell stories. You engage like a real human being. And yeah, you can do this even if you're a business. You can highlight customer stories. You can, there's so many ways that you can warm people up. But a lot of times, people who are struggling in their marketing, they skip over this warm-up step because it seems fluffy. It seems like, well, I could get them just to the answer or to my, download or something, and it'll help them so much more. But if they're not bought into who you are and that you maybe have something that's interesting for them, they're not going to go forward with you. They're not going on your bridge. Wow. And so, I always say, got to start with the warm up. You need to attract the right people who say, ooh, that sounds interesting. That sounds like something that I might want. Now, the next step is that you want to invite them in. Like, you want to say, hey, come take another step. I've got something for you here. And that's something, if anybody's been around online marketing, you've seen them. It could be a PDF, it could be an audio, it could be a video, it could be any number of things. It could be, a test drive of your software. Like, who knows what it is that you're selling, but it's something where they can get a little taste of what you have to offer and how it could be relevant to them. For me, I've got 19 different ways you can get into my bridge.
That's awesome.
But my most favorite one, the one that works best, is my quiz, where people can say, how could this actually work for me? What's the right path for me? And so they take a quiz and they get a personalized outcome that tells them, how to keep going forward. And people love that because then they're like, okay, I understand how this works for me and my situation. But, for other people, it might be a quiz. It might be, a 12-hour online marathon once a week. Like, who knows what it is, right?
I love it. And it's education, right? Like you're educating them and helping them. I've heard it's like solving an immediate problem, right? Like something instant, quick, where they can get a quick win so that they build that trust and rapport with you.
Yeah, it could be solving a problem, or it could be opening up curiosity.
Okay.
Or it could be, any number of other things. But yes, it's helping them like take that next step on the bridge and say, okay, I want to come closer. I want to understand more. It's having them lean forward instead of lean back and cross their arms.
Right.
And then once they've taken that step forward and they've given you their name and their email address so that you can stay in connection with them, now you need to set the stage. And this is when you're getting people across your bridge, right? And you need to help them understand why you or your company, why now is the time to really pay attention to this problem that they're having, and why this offer will get them what they want faster than anything else. So you need to set the stage for why they want to keep moving forward on your bridge with you.
Yeah.
And then finally, you want to give them a clear next step, like get on the phone with me, come to this event, come to this webinar, go to this sales page, whatever that clear next offer is. If you set that stage right, you will have people coming in and feeling like, wow, you really get me. You really understand what I'm struggling with. And it really looks like you understand how I can get past this. I need to check this out. And when you get people in that mode, you're not going to struggle this out.
That's amazing. And I hear that a lot of people are taking actions, but it's not necessarily getting people from one side of the cliff to the other. It's just like it's a random, like, hey, jump across. Here's what you'll get when you jump across, to the other cliff, or, different things like that. And what I hear you're creating is a bridge to take people from where they are to take the next step, to educate them, to, really give them the information that they need, the peace of mind that they need to trust and to say, you get me. I'll take another step. You get me, and continue like building the relationship on the journey.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I mean, for some things that'll take a while to build that bridge. For other things, it can be really fast. It just depends on what it is that you're selling and how well your audience already understands, what you offer and the successes that you have. And so I don't want people to think like, oh my gosh, I have to take, 3 months to build a relationship with somebody. You don't. Like, it can happen like that when you have it set properly.
That's powerful. And also doing research. Would you say that research is an important part of like knowing your audience, knowing the offer that we want to use, and knowing how to like package up that presentation, so to speak? Yeah,
but I have a really different approach to research than most people. So a lot of people talk about, coming up with your ideal client avatar or customer avatar, right? I hate those. I hate them with a passion. Because especially if you're trying to offer something new, if you're new to your business, or you're pivoting in your business, or you're coming out with a new offer, if you come up with a client avatar, you're making somebody up. And when you make somebody up, you're going to miss a lot of things that real, actual human beings that, might actually want to buy something from you need. And so I have an approach that I teach that is called the mini offers, MINI, not tons, just little baby offers, because I like to test. I like people to put money down on moving forward. So instead of like starting out with a $5,000 offer or a $10,000 offer, right? Start out with a little baby one, maybe a $7 offer or a $17 offer, or, a $49 offer, something small, something that, when people are on that bridge, you're giving them the clear next step. It's just a baby step. So they're not out tons of money if they buy this and it doesn't work for them. But for you, it lets you see, A, what people are willing to buy. And B, if you do it right, you'll get amazing feedback from your audience. And you'll be like, and this is what my offer is going to be.
Wow, that's powerful. Do you find that in doing the mini offers, if you give the wrong offer, it could turn people off and have them not want to hear the other offers, or no?
No, they just ignore you. And forget all about it.
So we have the grace of our audience to test out different ideas.
No, I wouldn't be testing multiple ideas a day or even a week. I would give a little space between them. Otherwise, they're going to be like, geez, you're always bombarding me with things. But a few years back, I was pivoting my business from being solely one-on-one work to offering a course in addition to my one-on-one. And I was like, how do I take this one-on-one stuff and actually turn it into a course that people are going to want to buy? Like, I don't want to spend a ton of time making a course if nobody wants to buy it. And so I rolled out a bunch of mini offers. I just tested them out. And I'll say a couple of them, people just totally ignored. But there were 3 that, flew off the shelves. Like, I had to shut them down because people were buying them. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm overwhelmed with stuff. And so those became a part of my course that I knew were really intriguing, hooky things that people found value in. But even more than that, every person who bought one of those offers, I offered them an hour-long call. 30 minutes for them to ask me questions about whatever it was that the offer was, and 30 minutes for me to ask them questions, so that I could get this fabulous marketing word bank of phrases and words and pains and dreams and desires, all the stuff that you need for good marketing. I didn't have to make any of it up. I'm not actually the most fabulous writer there is. But my people, my audience, people who actually were willing to pay me money, were giving me this gold and saying, this is what I want from you. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I really hope you can help me with. And it made my course launch really effortless because I knew what people wanted. It gave me confidence.
Wow, that's powerful. So really knowing who our audience is by testing with mini offers, that's like one of the fastest ways. Instead of just designing a dream client, who do I want to work with? It's like actually put out a couple different things that says, hey, I have an idea about this. Does it sound valuable to you? Do you want to take action on it? I'm sure there's a lot more finesse that you help people with to make it more effective. But that's the gist of it, right?
Yeah, and actually, my instructions, yes, I do help people come up with this, but my instructions for them for how to choose a mini offer is that it has to be something that you can do in 2 hours or less, that's $200 or less. So it needs to be simple. It needs to solve one thing. And so, for example, one of mine was, I wanted to test out if people would find value in me doing a video review of their marketing. Ooh. And so one of the mini offers that I did that flew off the shelves that I had to shut down was, hey, if you want my eyes on your marketing, click here. They literally clicked on a button. They went to PayPal. They paid. They went to a Google Drive and they made a copy of a workbook where they could upload what they wanted me to review. And then they sent me an email that said, here's the stuff for review. That's how simple it can be. Wow. That one, I sold so many so fast that I had to shut it down because I was like, I'm going to be doing video reviews for months.
How did you build up your initial audience and then like transition into, hey, I know I'm going to test these different offers. I'm going to focus on these specific things. How did you get the initial momentum?
Yeah, I was in Facebook groups, so I would see what people were asking about. And then, I would offer, if somebody was saying, hey, does anybody know somebody that does this? I would say, hey, I can do that. But, I did guest blogging, guest podcasting, just all sorts of ways to get out there in front of my audience. And then, I just had little opt-ins that they could have along the way. So PDFs and whatever.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as far as you going with the course route, do you feel that everyone needs a course at some point early on, or no? No, you don't feel like that?
Nope. No. There are some people. I think that you will know if a course is right for you. I think courses are amazing, and I love them. But I also have clients and friends who really don't love courses and don't believe in them, and so for them, that's not right. They are more about either group learning where they're leading it, or one-on-one work where it's really high end. And I think whatever business matches what you feel compelled to offer is what you should do. I don't think everybody should jump on the course bandwagon just because people say it's great. I think that you need to really go with where you feel most compelled to serve your audience.
And that's what we talked earlier about. How do you want your business to look, right? Really design it with like the end in mind, because you'll know if I want to have time freedom, then a course is probably a good option because I create it once and then just have people keep going through it, versus if I really value the connection and intimacy, then I'll have more of a group discussion or one-on-one coaching or something like that.
Yeah, although masterminds can give you a lot of time freedom too. And you can sell it once and have people in it all year. Yeah. So it just depends on how you, like, the thing about your own business is that you get to make the rules. You get to make it look just how you want it to. And that's not to say, that courses are bad. I love courses. I think they're amazing. And I've purchased a ton of them myself. And for me, it works, but I would never tell anybody that like that's your path to success.
It's powerful. What would you say has been one of the biggest lessons you've learned about marketing in the last year or two?
One of the biggest lessons is to keep it simple. Simpler, the better. Like, just make it simple and make it work. You can always add complexity later. But the folks that I work with, a lot of times they've seen or they've tried things that are so complicated and then they don't work and they're not sure how to fix them. And I always say, like, what's the simplest thing that we can do here? And they're like, but I need to do all these other things. I'm like, no, the random acts of marketing only take away from your effectiveness. Like, let's really hone in. Now, the second thing is, Chris, have you ever taken the How to Fascinate test?
No.
So Sally Hogshead did this. She has this amazing quiz. Her background is actually in advertising, like Madison Avenue advertising. And she put together this amazing quiz a number of years ago called How to Fascinate. You can find it at howtofascinate.com. And it tells you your fascination type. There's 49 different fascination types. Wow. And so one of the things that I always tell people when they're trying to get that clarity on their marketing, on their message, on their offer is take that quiz. In fact, all my one-on-one clients have to take that quiz, because understanding how you best fascinate and how you best engage people is one of the most powerful things you can do. And if you marry that up with a simple strategic system, you're going to find your own success that feels really good. It doesn't feel hard because it's totally aligned with who you are.
Wow. How do you fascinate?
Mine is, there's two advantages. There's a primary advantage and there's a secondary advantage. So my primary is prestige and my secondary is mystique. So it's a lot like Seth Godin, for example, where you have these ideas and you put them together and you put them out there in an easy to digest format. That's basically my style. It's called The Architect. But it's funny because I don't usually attract that many architects. I attract other people. So it's really interesting to understand the kinds of people who are attracted to that as well.
Yeah, that's super cool. And so you take all your clients through that so that they can understand, like, what's their genius, their gift that they give the world, and what's the best way that they do it.
Yeah, because one of the worst things you can do is try to emulate somebody else's style. And I know because I tried that. I joined a mastermind back in 2015 with somebody who is hugely charismatic, has like ideas out the wazoo, is just like, we'll promise the moon, we'll sing Broadway tunes on stage, we'll sell anywhere, anytime to anyone. And that's like the opposite of me. I'm not going to sing to you because I'm terrible at singing. And I'm much better in a more intimate setting. Yeah. And I tried to emulate that style and I flopped majorly. And it's when I really said, you know what, I need to be true to who I am and I need to be true to the way that I find success. So if that success works for her, amazing. Like, that's great that she knows, but I need to find my success path. And so the How to Fascinate was actually how I got back on that path.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Michelle, what do you think is really working today in content marketing? What is standing out? What's penetrating the noise? What really are you seeing is working in content marketing today?
Yeah, so content marketing, if you're not familiar with what that means, it's, putting out content to your audience. So what is content? Like, it could be on social media, it could be a blog, it could be a podcast, it could be a video, it could be any number of things, right? And so what I find works the best is, again, just being true to who you are. Like, if I tried to be out there doing, tons of Snapchats or tons of Instagram lives or whatever, it's not true to who I am. I'm much more like, I figure it out and then I bring it to you. And so guest podcasting and podcasting is really the best for me. But I have people ask me this all the time, should I start a podcast? I'm like, I don't know. Is doing a podcast, does that feel right for you? Is that in line with your skills? Do you feel called to do that? Is that how you fascinate? Or are you better kind of whipping out your phone and doing a rant on the go? If that's so, like, let's just figure out the right system that underlines that. And I know you're laughing at that, but for some people, that's an amazing way to build their business. I mean, hello, Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he's the rant on the go guy, and he has a system behind the scenes that captures all those leads and turns them into business and all that stuff. But, you know, if that's your fascination style, fabulous. Figure out how to make that work. You know, I have clients who are amazing on Instagram stories. They do, 10, 15 stories a day. And for them, it's as effortless as breathing. If I tried to do that, after like 2 days, I would be exhausted on the floor, ready to just like poke my eyeballs out because I didn't want to do it anymore, right? And so I think, to your question, I think it's more about understanding where your audience is, understanding how you best connect to your audience, and then coming up with real ways. I hate to use the word authentic because it's so overused, but coming up with ways that are real to you, where you can connect to your audience, you can tell stories, you can share, whatever it makes sense for your business. In a way that makes people go, I want to know more about this. And the thing that I see that doesn't work is when people are out there doing all these random acts of marketing, but they don't have a system behind the scenes. They don't have some way for people to say, okay, I want to get on this bridge with you. So they're just out there sort of like tossing, I don't know, beach balls and hoping somebody will grab it and say, I want to hire you. But that never happens. So they're tossing and tossing and tossing and going, gosh, my business isn't growing, but I'm working so hard. And it's like, if you just had this system that took people from this cliff to your cliff with a nice bridge, boy, it makes a big difference. And so that's what I see that works is when you have a really clear way to get people further into your sphere.
Would you say that email marketing is like an essential part of that to like educate the prospect and raise their buying temperature so that they buy? Or would you say that there's other methods that are equally as good and valid?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have yet to see somebody where the email isn't the glue that kind of holds that bridge together. Yeah. Because it's a way that you can control being in front of them and kind of the tempo and pace you take people on. But I also like, Facebook ads that follow them along that path too. Yeah. So you can have different Facebook ads going to people at different times, depending on, if they've given you their name and email address, if they've clicked to certain pages or whatever, you can have different Facebook ads come up. I personally haven't seen email not work for somebody, but I'm sure that there's probably somebody out there that is making their business work without it.
It's powerful. And then you mentioned earlier about really getting people to trust you and show that you understand them. That's a key part of that. Is there anything else that you can tell us about the email as how that happens, how you do that with emails?
Yeah. So one of my rules for content marketing is reuse, recycle, and repurpose. Yes. So whatever you create. So for me, my sort of hub and spoke, if you will, the hub is my podcast. Yeah. Your hub is probably your podcast too, right? Yeah. Off that, you have different spokes. Like I can turn one podcast into 10 or 15 social media updates that I then schedule, and they just run and run and run, right? I can turn one podcast into 2 or 3 emails. So I might send it out to my list all at once, and then I might put it into a marketing funnel. I can turn one podcast into, a follow-up strategy after a sales call. So if it's with a client or a student, I can send it to somebody after a sales call and say, hey, here's somebody who is in your shoes. Take a listen to what they had to say about working with me. Wow. Really powerful. Yeah. I can turn it into a blog post on LinkedIn. I could there's so much stuff you can do. So I always say, create with the intention of reusing, repurposing, and recycling as much as possible so that you're not doing the work once and using it once and then it's gone. Do the work once. I have some blog posts of mine that have been workhorses for 3-4 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then you can just put different spins on it, or if there's something else that comes out like, hey, I wrote this blog post a while back. I wanted to highlight this aspect, this paragraph, this portion today so that we can dive in a little bit deeper. And it's just like, why keep reinventing the wheel? Let's use what we've already created and maximize that.
That's why I love marketing funnels, because honestly, Chris, the people who saw that, or who listened to that podcast last year, they're probably not the same people standing on the cliff saying, I wonder if she's got something for me. No. Right? And so it's a new podcast to these people, or it's a new blog post to these people. So why not reuse it and repurpose it and keep using it to connect with people? If it's really solid content that speaks to my audience, there's no reason to keep reinventing the wheel. Just keep, finding new ways to use it.
Yeah. One of the challenges I have is I have like so much content, so many video interviews. And so like, I was always like, okay, well, what is the best way to repurpose it? And I'm curious if you like feel like there's a preference or a best way. I know it probably depends on the business and the audience and all kinds of stuff like that. But in terms of repurposing podcasts or videos, do you think there's a best way that you've seen specifically with entrepreneurship or empowerment and coaching? Anything you've seen with that?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell you some of the stuff that I do for mine. So after every interview that I do, I have it transcribed on rev.com. So it's really easy to go through and find themes. So, if I do an interview, like with a client, for example, I have a master spreadsheet where we keep track of all my podcast episodes, and we have specific themes or keywords that go with each of those. And so I can just have my VA, my virtual assistant, put it into that. And so if I am creating a new marketing funnel or a new email series, and I want some examples of, overcoming fear, for example, I can just go to that master spreadsheet and search for everybody who has overcoming fear, and I have them all right there. So it's awesome. Really easy to use. Now, when I have them transcribed, it's also really easy to find the timestamps to have little excerpts made where I can put it into an email or out onto social media or onto my website. So I'm not having to go back through and go, who was it that I had that conversation with? These are easy things. And, Fiverr, you can send it to somebody and say, hey, can you cut minute 7:10 to minute 8:12 for me and give it back to me, and they'll do it for $5 and you're off and running, right? Yeah. So it's just finding really easy ways to keep track of it and then to intentionally reuse it. And is there like a type of repurposing that you see converts clients the best in terms of taking that piece of content and educating them so that they want to sign up or buy an offer or anything like that? It depends on how much your offer is, and it depends on what it is, right? Totally. So, for example, with clients who hire me to help them with Facebook ads, I have a quiz that they have to take to see if they're ready for Facebook ads. Right. If they are ready, then they'll get the option to have a call with me, or they'll get a series of emails, or both. And in the emails, I'll have podcast interviews with people who've done Facebook ads with me that talk about be ready to make content for your ads. Like you don't just stick up one image and you're off and running. Like you need to be ready for this. That talk about, telling your story so that when I get on the phone with them for sales calls, they're ready to have these conversations. It's like, Facebook ads haven't worked in the past, but it sounds like you do it really differently. Help me understand how I can make this work. And so I just use people's stories and their message and the success that they've had to highlight how I can help people, and it sells itself. Now, for a course, it might be slightly different. I might be having people come on and talk about how, they, came into the course or whatever. Or I might talk about the pain of not having a marketing funnel. So I have some that are just me, where I'm talking about what happens to your business when you don't have this system in place and you're just out there doing random acts of marketing, and people are like, oh, that's me. I get it. I need to figure this out. So it's just, it's just knowing what needs to be on that bridge to get them ready to buy.
Oh, it's powerful. And you have that expertise because you've seen it time and time again and helped people with it. And I love this. This is awesome, Michelle. So we're beginning to wrap up. And if there was one or two key takeaways or golden nuggets that you want to really give to our audience, what would those be?
Well, first, I always recommend this. I get zero money for it. I don't think she even knows I exist, but I would say go take Sally's How to Fascinate quiz.
Awesome.
100%. Even if you don't even have a business yet, knowing how you fascinate, how you show up best is so powerful and helps drive clarity in a lot of areas of your life, not just your business, although it's fabulous for business. The second thing is I would get really clear. What is it that you want your business to look like? Don't subscribe to the idea that your business has to look a certain way. It needs to look and feel what is best for you, how you best serve people and engage with people. And then the third nugget would be go find where your people are hanging out. What are they asking about? What are they complaining about? What are they looking for answers on? When you have those three nuggets, you will build something that will be successful.
Amen. Oh my gosh, Michelle, this is so awesome. This is so much fun and so valuable. Everyone who's tuning in right now definitely wants to know, how do they continue their journey with you? How do they find out more about your marketing education and services? What are their next steps?
Yeah, I mean, the first next step is if you want to find out about what marketing funnel is right for you, go to michellelevans.com/quiz. It's a quick and easy quiz, and I'll tell you exactly which funnel is right for you, and I'll give you video training to get started. So that's probably the best way. And then from there, you'll be on my bridge. So you'll get to experience exactly what we talked about.
It's like you'll know exactly where you're supposed to go as soon as you take that quiz. So that's perfect. I love it, Michelle. So awesome. And I really admire and acknowledge you for creating this pathway for people to really grow themselves wherever they're at, whether they're just at the beginning and they have no idea what they're doing, or they're more advanced and they just want to take it to the next level, automate things and build a business of their dreams. You're really serving people with that, and love that you're doing the podcasts and just showing up and just being you and operating out of your genius, your fascination. It's truly an honor to have you on here. And everyone who's listening or watching, freaking stay connected with this woman. She's a powerhouse. So many great things coming from you. I can feel it, Michelle. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Chris.
Awesome. We'll see you soon, okay?
Okay.
All right. Take care.